What's wrong with you people?
Welcome to Not Another Baptist Podcast, and if you are looking for theological education that includes both academic challenge and hands-on ministry experience, we suggest Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. And the best way to experience SWBTs is to attend their Fall Preview Day on October 21st. Preview days are your chance to see firsthand all that Southwestern Seminary has to offer. And during your visit, you'll tour the campus, speak with faculty members, chat with fellow students, and experience the unique campus community of Southwestern Seminary. And, Kyle, all Preview Day attendees will have a chance to win a $1,500 scholarship. Fall Preview Day is October 21st, so register today for free at swbts.edu/preview. Kyle, non-alcoholic beerman, how are ye doing? But I want to ask specifically. How is Kyle B. Yerman? That's what I want to know. B. Yerman.
Yeah, no, it's going well, and let me tell you, I'm excited because my Rangers made history last night, Matt.
Yes, they did.
They made history. Maybe not in the way that you're thinking.
It is the way I'm thinking.
It is. Yeah.
Thank you for. I wish, y'all were the chosen one. You could have walked that Joker 4 times.
They did.
2 days
they could
in
have.
a row.
Yep, it's true.
And not gone down in the history books as the one
right.
that let Aaron jump. But Aaron seems like a good guy.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
But also the Rangers had 2 players who've hit who are in the 25-25 club. 25 home runs, 25 stolen bases, and that's the history that I was talking about.
Oh, so
first time in Rangers history they've had 2 25-25 guys.
Okay, well, nobody cares about the Rangers. In fact, watching that game, I was surprised to even see the guy that, like the odds that somebody that caught that ball was wearing a Texas Rangers hat was very small.
There were a lot of Yankees.
There's a whole lot.
And then once the Yankees pulled Aaron Judge, I think that the crowd probably thinned out quite a bit. Yeah. I would be willing to guess.
Yeah, I remember working at what was the previous ballpark, and at that time it was ballpark in Arlington. Now it's Choctaw Field or something like that. But anyway, when I was working there and would work on Red Sox games and Yankees games, they were sellouts. Every other day, man, nobody's there. And
now that's true with the Astros. I mean, so you'll have at times what feels like a road game for the Rangers. But for those of our listeners who wonder, man, these guys talk about baseball so much. Why do they care so much about baseball? It's because baseball has unique things that just make it hard not to. Well, the kind of question is, how can you not be romantic about baseball, right? So yesterday, Aaron Judge hit home run number 62, which is the American League record. Some argue the legitimate major league home run record. We're not going to get into that discussion, but Aaron Judge is number 99, and he hit home run number 62. The Yankees went on to lose that game to the Texas Rangers, making their record for the year going into the last day of the season, 99 and 62 on the day that number 99 hit number 62. So,
which means
the Rangers will do everything in their power to keep the Yankees from winning 100 games this year. Yeah. So we can't spoil anything, but we can keep them from winning 100 games.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it if you did. But Kyle, we're not talking about baseball today. We are talking about something that we appreciate, and that is pastors. And as pastors, we appreciated Pastor Appreciation Month. But there are some ways to make pastor appreciation awkward.
Yes, many ways. We've come up with 4. There are probably a lot more.
We were kind of talking before. We kind of have 4 in mind, and we would love to hear what you think that would make Pastor Appreciation Month just extra awkward for you or for your church. or for other pastors. And but I think these four kind of rise to the top a little bit. Number one, guys, I know it's October, and October 1st, we start wondering, hey, am I going to get something? October 3, yeah, I haven't gotten a card yet. October 6th, man, nothing. Not even a thank you. Man, they hate me. So then maybe we want to say we should ask for it. So number one, if you want to make Pastor Appreciation Month incredibly awkward for you and your church, here's what we want you to do. Preach your Sunday sermon all about why they ought to give you the greatest Pastor Appreciation Month gift of all time. No. So number one is to ask for it. Kyle, this should be obvious, but let's talk about why maybe asking for a Pastor Appreciation Month gift. And I immediately, brought to mind Jeb Bush. Like, please clap.
Please clap.
Like, please clap. But so why is asking for it a terrible idea?
Yeah, so part of me gets I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt here in some ways. So part of me gets the heart behind this, and it could be, it's not that I want them to go all out, but I want them to be aware. I don't want them to find out in like November that October was Pastor Appreciation Month, and then they feel bad because they didn't know about it, right? But I think that October's Pastor Appreciation Month has been a thing for a long time. I'm going to say the majority of churches are at least aware of it. And I mean, other people will be posting about it like on social media and stuff like that. So your folks more than likely are going to see it. So I get, well, I just want them to be informed, but yeah, it makes it really awkward, right? If you get up and, in the announcement time on the first Sunday in October, you're like, hey, it's Pastor Appreciation Month. But I want this to be, Church Appreciation Month to let you know how much I, as your pastor, appreciate you. Yeah. I can't think of a way that wouldn't make it awkward.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, look, and we'll talk about kind of the expectations later on in the show. But if now the way I've seen it done really well is when a deacon or a church leader besides the pastor gets up and talks about Pastor Appreciation Month. And in some cases, the pastor's been in the room. Some cases they've asked him just to step outside while they do it to avoid the awkwardness. So I think that's okay. But yeah, pastor yourself to go up and make mention of it. Yeah, boy, you could get into some hot water and make things really awkward really quickly.
Yeah, and I think one alternative here is maybe the whole treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And so if you happen to have fellow pastors on staff and you're the senior pastor or vice versa, this might be a great chance for you to say, hey, yeah, I know y'all probably know this is Pastor Appreciation Month, but I'd ask you not to forget the youth guy.
Yeah.
Don't forget the music guy,
Absolutely.
something like that, where you can still ask for it in maybe the right way, but you're not asking for yourself, because sometimes then they might have even forgotten. Maybe they knew it was Pastor Appreciation Month. Last month they gave you a car, whatever, or last year they gave you a car or something. They just completely forgot about it.
So Bart, this is the assistant to the preaching pastor saying, don't forget your staff, paid and volunteer. Don't forget them.
Yeah, and kudos to Bart last year, and I'll give him credit because I was going to do a big Pastor Appreciation Month thing for our pastors here at First Farmersville, and so I was going to have all obviously the pastors, and Bart was like, hey, why don't we make this the whole staff? So that was also Lynette, our children's director, and all the secretaries, janitors, all of them. And so we had a big old meal and had some gifts and all of that stuff for them. And so that's one thing that you can kind of flip this a little bit and make it less awkward, but don't ask for it. And our final one will kind of deal with that as well too. But number two is like maybe look at the calendar and it's October 20 something, or maybe even 30th. Maybe you're at the fall festival and you're like, hey, we had a great turnout at fall festival. Sure would have been nice to have a great turnout for my pastor appreciation gift. Something like that. Don't passively aggressive or passive aggressive, passive, I can't talk,
Don't
passive
complain
aggressively.
passive aggressively.
There you go. Don't complain about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
Man, it's so great. Like, here's how some people do it. It's so great to see First Alamogordo bless their pastor this month. I'm so proud of how they are
Yeah.
loving on their pastor, something like that. Like, don't throw your
So,
church under the bus, even
so
if,
glad that some churches appreciate their
yeah,
pastors. Yeah.
it's just, it's so humbling to see how great some church. But so yeah, number two, don't passive
Yeah.
aggressive. Don't get passive aggressive with your complaining. And
Yep.
maybe don't complain at all. Period.
Yep.
Let's full stop there. Whether it's passive aggressively or not.
Yeah.
Why, Kyle?
Um, because you don't want to be a jerk.
Yeah,
I mean, look, that, I understand that sometimes, when you see the way some churches go about pastor appreciation, that there can be um, there can be some uncomfortableness, some envy. We're going to talk about that in just a second as well. Um, but again, we've talked about this before in comparing your ministry and your church to other churches, and that is never a winning game, because either you're going to look at what they're doing and think, oh man, this is the perfect church, and if I was just in a church like that, knowing, of course, that no perfect church exists. Every church has issues, because every church is full of people who have issues, because we're all sinners. And so you or you don't want to look at the way your church treats you well and see the way that other pastors are treated and think, man, I'm
yeah,
so glad that I'm in the perfect church, and they're just struggling for Jesus where they are. That's never a winning game, because you're never seeing the full picture
yeah.
of the joys and the struggles.
Yeah, because maybe that church is like absolutely terrible to that pastor for 11
Right.
months out of the
Yeah.
year and feels
And the
bad
one
about it
month
because
they,
they
give
go
him
off
some
on,
money.
yeah, on
Yeah.
October. Then they don't give them a, Christmas bonus. I mean, you
Yeah.
just never know. So
Yep. That's right.
don't complain about it at all. Like, but certainly not passive aggressively and so forth. And then number three, kind of the flip side to that is don't flaunt it.
Yep.
We should celebrate, thank our church, and I think that's probably best done, face to face in your church, that kind of thing. But I think there's a place for thanking them, even online and publicly, of how
Yeah.
much you're grateful for their support and their generosity. But that probably is where it needs to stop.
Yep.
I'm grateful for, like in the case of, Mayhill was very generous during Pastor
Yeah.
Appreciation Month. And it wasn't because I asked for it. It was because somebody saw one of the Lifeway, or at the time as Facts and Trends, but one of our Pastor Appreciation Month, realized that they didn't really do Pastor
Yeah.
Appreciation Month. They didn't know anything about it. And so they then, somebody saw that I either I'd written or I'd shared, for the job I was doing with Lifeway, and then they said, "Hey, we need to do something for Matt." Well,
Yeah.
when that came, it's like I'm not going on Facebook, said, "I'm so glad." I don't remember what it was. "I'm so glad I got a $50 gift card to See Seniors, and a
Oh, see,
$25 gift card
seniors.
to Starbucks, and
Yeah.
2 night stay at the Holiday Inn." All this, like, whatever it is. They paid off my car, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. But sometimes you can get the point across, to share your gratitude and so forth, to say, I'm so grateful for the way Mayhill Baptist supports and appreciates and is generous with me and my family,
Yeah.
and takes care of them, year round, and certainly during Pastor
Yeah.
Appreciation Month, and leave it at that. Because, as you know, you might be one of those. There's people on Facebook or other pastors that they don't get anything, or they may
Yeah.
only get a card, and that is a very meaningful gift. But then they see, this guy gets this, or that guy got that, and
Yeah.
they're like, wait a minute, I didn't get anything like that. So it all of these kind of go together, but don't flaunt it. And
Right.
do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, obviously completely agree with that. Don't go on social media and brag about, how much your church went out. The flip side of that is, don't be wary of envying what other guys or what other pastors are getting. And this goes along with the passive aggressive complaining that we talked about. Um, but again, don't despair, right? God has you in your church for a season, and It could be that they have to grow to appreciate you. So don't envy your what other guys get. And yeah, if you get a really great pastor appreciation gift, a really good celebration, um, thank your church for that. Be grateful for that. But be very careful about how you post that on social media, because I know the last thing that as pastors want to do is to further discourage a guy who's walking through a really tough ministry position, and to unintentionally do that because you're just happy and celebrating what your church has done for you. Just be careful in the way you do that.
Yeah. And number 4 takes kind of all of these together. We've kind of
Yeah.
alluded to it along the way. Expecting it,
Yeah.
right? Expecting it. If you go into October, like if October is that month on the calendar that you're like, man, I'm putting up with this because October is coming. Like
Yeah.
you're in the wrong business, man. And so if you go into the month expecting it, like don't do that.
Yeah.
Consider this kind of like, those surprise bonuses, or those times that maybe somebody shakes your hand and they have a $20 bill in it. Hey, take your kids out and get some ice cream,
Yep.
something like that. Don't go into the month expecting it. Certainly don't go into it like budgeting for it. Like, hey, I can't wait until I'm gonna be able to
Yes.
take my wife out to eat this month because somebody's going to give me 100. Like, and then
Don't yeah,
don't
don't
get that.
don't don't
Like,
pull a Clark Griswold, right?
don't do it. Yeah,
Waiting on the big bonus.
yeah. Don't do it. So don't expect it. Why?
Because there's no guarantee it's going to come, right? And you are, I think you can set yourself up to be frustrated. You can set yourself up to be angry. And look, the reality is a lot of churches just have different seasons, right? So some will make a big deal out of pastor appreciation in October. Some some churches will wait and kind of do a big staff appreciation thing in December along with Christmas. And so, especially if you're like in your first year in a church and it's, October, wait to see kind of how the rhythms of your church go. But I think you're right. I mean, don't expect that, your church is going to go all out. Don't expect that they're going to do a big celebration. And I just think, a lot of times in churches, for churches and for pastors, a lot of the issues that we deal with, a lot of the tensions, I think, often come because of unmet expectations and oftentimes unwritten expectations, right? I know we've talked a little bit about some stuff that you encountered early in your church in Mayhill about expectations that you weren't aware of, expectations that maybe you had that they didn't know, and it takes time to work those out.
Yeah.
And so don't give yourself a reason to be angry and to be bitter towards your church if they don't respond the way you want them to during pastor appreciation.
Yeah.
Because again, and we've talked about this before, um, it is great for your church to recognize and appreciate the work that you do as a pastor. It's fantastic. But there is not a banker appreciation Sunday or a necessarily a teacher appreciation Sunday, right? Where you're going all out for other folks in your church. And so you don't want to create bitterness in your congregation by them doing something big for you and not doing something for other people as well, right? So um, you've got to temper those expectations. And remember that whether your church goes all out or whether they completely ignore it, your self-worth as a pastor, your calling to that congregation is not defined by what your church does or doesn't do in October.
Yeah.
Right? You're called to love and serve those folks, whether they love you or whether they hate your guts. You're called to point them to Jesus all the same, either way.
Yeah. And I want to wrap us up with maybe just kind of a pro tip. If you are a pastor or maybe in a position that's like pastor adjacent, kind of like your role at NAM or mine with the Colin Baptist Association, if you're a member listening to this or whatever, you can really not only help your pastor but fellow pastors, usually by using this month, and we are already seeing people do this. Maybe they share a selfie that they've taken with a pastor hero of theirs, or something like that, sharing one of the articles or this episode about Pastor Appreciation Month. things of that nature. And sometimes when you do that, church member will see their pastor tagged in this and be like, hey, Pastor Appreciation Month, I wonder if we do something. And maybe it goes that way. But it also is something we should do all the time, just as our church members should appreciate us and we should appreciate them and shepherd them, year round, all that kind of stuff. We should celebrate and affirm our fellow pastors year round. And so this is a great year or great month to say, hey, I'm so proud of how well Kyle is shepherding his family, his church, and whatever it might be, and share those things. Or maybe pastors, maybe even they passed away, but the one that led you to Jesus, the one that maybe kind of affirmed your call into ministry or gave you your first opportunity to preach. Use this month also to maybe celebrate them, because in so doing, you are still making people aware without expecting it, without flaunting it, without doing all of this other kind of stuff. It's just something we should do anyway. So Kyle, any other final thoughts before you send us out?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're spot on, and know that we appreciate you, right? So whatever your church does or doesn't do, know that the two knuckleheads on Not Another Baptist podcast appreciate you and the work that you do.
But I'm not going to watch your kids, and I'm not sending you a Saltgrass, steakhouse gift card. Just know that it's the thought that counts. I appreciate everyone that's out there that's a pastor.
But I was going to say, if you need some encouragement, feel free to reach out to us on social media. The Replant team is here to encourage as well. So replant@nam.net. If you just need somebody to talk to and somebody to walk you through a difficult season, to talk you off that ledge of, turning in your resignation letter, we're here to encourage and to help. And until next time, may your coffee be as black as night and as bold as the gospel you declare.
What's wrong with you people?